Tales from the Pennybloods brings you The Two Sacred Oaths. This show, based on Nicholas Mitchell's 1849 short story Madeline Capel or the Scheming Guardians, first appeared in the magazine The Keepsake. Jonathan Brandt plays Flint, Kate Finley is Aunt Elizabeth, Clive Marlowe plays Travanion, and Rose Trussman is Madeline. Julia Warren directed and engineered the show, which was adapted by Arnold Anthony Schmidt.
In one of the narrow courts of London's Throgmorton Street, not far from the Stock Exchange, a certain lawyer by the name of Mr. Flint has established himself. The house is old and dark, and the narrow street means that the light of the sun rarely reaches its rooms. Candles burn there even at midday. At 55 years of age, Mr. Flint is not, nor ever has been, a handsome man. His face is long, his forehead broad, and his chin narrow. He sits in a private room, cut off from the office of his law clerks by a long passage. To ensure privacy, he is separated from them by one more door than absolutely necessary. But Mr. Flint does not sit alone. A man very unlike him occupies a chair nearby. Dressed to the height of fashion, Mr. Travanion has more show in his appearance than elegance, though in some distant period he had been eminently handsome. He has lived too fast, however, and the freshness of life has evaporated over the gaming table, his body wasted by nightly debauches. Pleasure has dug the grave of health, and he looks older than his 50 years. They sit separated by a narrow table and speak in whispers. A fire crackles.
A bit more claret?
If you please.
It is delicious.
Costly, yes, but the best always is.
I don't know that I entirely approve of your plan.
Well, as you perceive, one short year more, and our ward is of age. By then, if nothing is done, all our hopes vanish. The money we have had the keeping of for so long will be entirely in her power.
And wine of this quality will be harder to come by.
Our case, I confess, is getting desperate. Your £5,000 that I promised...
And not a farthing less will I take to second you in this affair.
I fear the money will never be yours if the thing depends on my marrying the girl.
Not marry her? Why, man, you are mad. You must marry her. There is no other way. The law admits of none. We are her guardians by statute, bound to protect our ward's estate, and are accountable for every penny, if it ever came out how we had spent her inheritance.
Infamy, disgrace, prison.
Don't even speak the words. They send shivers down my spine.
But I have thrown myself at her feet 4 times. I have protested my adoration. I have prayed. I have pleaded in agony. Need I say I have been 4 times rejected?
The girl is not such a fool as you took her for. Don't despair. The fortress of a woman's heart may always be taken by judicious bombardment. Go, kneel to her, flatter her, upbraid her. I say, do anything so at last she agrees to be yours.
I will try her again. But if she refuse?
Then she leaves us no choice.
And you agree to my proposal?
Sadly, yes. But only if blind necessity drives us to it. For it is a fearful plan.
To us.
To marriage.
To money!
Later that evening, Madeline Capel sits in the drawing room of the house, which her guardians had taken for her in their neighborhood of Regent's Park. Her sole friend and companion, her elderly Aunt Elizabeth, accompanies her. The 20-year-old Madeline, a rich heiress, is not yet of age to receive her inheritance. She is still, in the eyes of the law, a child. For one more year, others have responsibility for her well-being. Others have power over her and her money.
That's beautiful, my dear. I always loved that song. It was a favourite of your mother's.
Yes, that always makes it one of mine as well. It makes me feel closer to her.
It has been cloudy all day today, but it sounds like the storm has finally arrived.
Oh, Auntie!
Don't fret, my dear.
I don't like the wind blowing like that. It frightens me so.
Of course it does, because your head is filled with all those morbid ghost stories you're always reading.
But they're so romantic.
Life is neither so wonderful nor so terrible as your Gothic novels.
But what if it were?
Tea, ma'am? Oh, yes, please. Just set it down there. I'll pour. As you wish, ma'am. Tea, my dear.
Yes, please.
What's wrong?
I can't say. I don't like her. I don't know why Mr. Flint insisted on hiring her.
The new maid? Was she discourteous to you?
No, nothing like that. Nothing particular that I can put my finger on. There's something about her I distrust.
Well, pay her no mind. Here, drink your tea.
Thank you.
Now it's back to your music. Try it again, but attend more carefully to your fingering.
Oh, this part always tricks me up.
You're unusually distracted this evening, Madeline.
I've been reading that copy of Clarissa I found in Father's library.
That shocking book by Samuel Richardson.
Such a beautiful young woman. And kidnapped.
I can't wonder what your father was thinking, leaving books like that to you in his will. I'm sure if he hadn't passed suddenly, he'd have thought the better of it.
But I like Clarissa. She's so brave. Though the struggles that confront her make my hair stand on end.
Well, reading novels like that, it's no wonder you can't concentrate on your piano practicing.
Auntie, tell me true. Can men really be as villainous as those in Richardson's novel?
Not all, my dear. You only have to look at your father to prove that's not the case.
I know, but I remember so little about my father. Only a few visits when he came home from sea. Such wonderful gifts, and those special Christmases we had together. But I was so young.
He was a man worth knowing and worth remembering.
And I can recall nothing of my mother.
Of course not, my dear. You were scarcely 3 months old when she died. But she loved you very much.
Are you sure, Auntie? How can you tell?
By the way she held you to her breast, the way she doted on you as you played with her fingers, the way she stared dreamily into your little eyes. Be assured, my dear, she loved you deeply.
Oh, I know that she did. I can feel it. I just wish I could remember it. And when she died, she must have been so sad to leave Father.
To leave you both. But her passing broke his heart. If it hadn't been for you, I don't think he'd have survived. He loved her so, as he loved you.
It seems they had the perfect marriage. Intimate friends as well as husband and wife.
Aye, they were lucky in their companionship. Without that, marriage can be a hard thing.
And yet people marry without it.
Aye, they do, but not happily to my mind.
I don't think I shall ever marry.
Oh, don't be silly. Someday you must marry.
Must I?
All ladies must, especially ladies of fortune like yourself.
I suppose. But I've lived such a solitary life since father passed.
Your guardians take good care of you.
I know they do. But I'm alone so often.
Well,
Except for you, Auntie, of course.
an elderly woman is scarcely fit as the sole company for a young lady. Over and over, I told your ward that you should socialise more, meet people your own age.
I know. Girls usually come out in society at 18. Here I am older than that, and still I've never been presented in court.
It troubles me as well. How will you ever meet a potential husband?
I'm sure Mrs. Flint and Travanion look out for my interests.
As your father instructed them to do in his will.
Still, I never played with other children growing up. All these years I've had no close friends, neither men nor women.
Your guardians have kept you to a solitary life. That's true.
Not that I yearn over much for society. I do go to the theatre now and again.
I don't think it's wise to be so alone. But they must know what's best. They are gentlemen of the world.
Still, I'd like to see that world. The books I've read make me wish I could attend genuine balls, wear fine dresses, hear beautiful music.
And dance with handsome gentlemen?
Why not?
And you were never going to marry?
Oh, Auntie, you're always teasing. Might I not enjoy a ball without meeting a handsome gentleman?
You? What with reading all your sentimental stories and liking nothing but the deepest tragedies, aye, and weeping over them too. Only dancing with a handsome gentleman will please your heart.
Perhaps you're right, if he's a true gentleman.
I'm sure he will be, when the time comes. Now, put your music away and prepare for sleep, my child.
I will. Who knows but what I might dream?
Wild Hampshire rabbits to a shiver. Wild Hampshire rabbits to a shiver. Wild Hampshire rabbits to a shiver.
At first glance, Madeline creates the impression that she is not remarkably handsome. She is, however, one of those beauties which, like half-unfolded flowers, require to be looked at well, even minutely scrutinized, before their loveliness, their modest charms, can be fully discovered. In a word, hers is the beauty of a retiring Madonna, and her fair form is the shrine of a soul too sensitive for the situation in which she is placed. Women like Madeline, heiresses who will one day inherit large sums of money, should possess some iron of soul in order to withstand the attacks of the sycophants and designing knaves by whom, too frequently, they are surrounded. Madeline, being open, innocent, and sensitive, had no such iron soul. Her soul was gentle and unpresupposing, open-hearted and kind.
Who's there? I'm not expecting anyone.
Only me? May I come in?
Of course. And to what may I owe the honour, Mr. Travanion? Of this morning's call? Some business affair, no doubt?
Oh, no business, my dearest Miss Capel, but perhaps pleasure. I am not come to say that the price of stocks has fallen or that your tenants are behind in their rents. My object, I confess, is a selfish one. A favour. A personal favour.
I shall be happy, sir, to do anything for you that lies in my poor power.
What I ask is surely in your power. Would, madam, would that you kindly, mercifully adhere to your word. But the favour I have to beg is the greatest that man can ask of woman. To enliven his lonely lot, to heal his bleeding heart.
What? Again, Mr. Travanion, I had hoped to hear no more of this. I had hoped my answer, given a fortnight since, was plain and decided.
Be indulgent, madam. Human nature is weak. While one ray of hope glimmers on the coming darkness of despair, true love will not wholly die.
There is no hope, Mr. Travanion.
The summers of my days is past, it's true. My brow is marked by care and thought. Only my soul remains the same, my heart unchanged. There, the freshness of early years lingers still, with the capacity of appreciating the beautiful and grand, of loving and enduring. I throw myself on your generosity, your mercy.
This is folly, sir. Madness.
Miss Capel!
If you indeed love me or even esteem me, you would never continue thus to persecute me.
Love you, Miss Capel? Here, upon my knees, I call heaven to witness. I swear.
Take no oaths, Mr. Travanion, for oaths are serious matters.
But Miss Capel!
Swear not, Mr. Travanion. Think of the power, the justice of heaven. When once you swear...
It is before that power that I do swear.
Please, you must not jest when it comes to heaven. Who knows what might come of it? Who knows the consequences of violating such a sacred commitment? Of committing such a blasphemous falsehood?
Violating? I wouldn't dare. The thought never crossed my mind.
Moreover, swearing an oath will not convince me of the truth of your assertions.
Madam, I am a desperate man. Passion, I allow, has made me presumptuous, blind, foolish.
I should say it has.
How dare I hope that one so young, so pure, so good, so beautiful should ever regard me, love me?
No, Mr. Travanion, you most certainly may not hope.
Oh, Miss Capel!
Mr. Travanion, please! Desist, I say, desist!
No! Volatile youth knows nothing of the deep enduring passion which, like pent-up love, rushes and boils in the heart of mankind. Then hear me, dear, loved, worshipped one, spurn not my prayer.
Mr. Travanion, I beg you, unhand me.
Oh, that you were lowly born, a peasant maiden. I swear to you that I love not your fortune, but yourself.
Again, please do not swear.
Would you were in the depths of poverty, for then this cold suspicion of interested motives on my part would not thus possess your mind. Then, perhaps, you might listen to my prayer and take compassion on a devotion so ardent, so unalterable.
Mr. Travanion, you distress me. If you indeed honour me with that sincere love you profess, I am sorry, deeply pained at your circumstance. I tell you again, you have my friendship, my confidence, but that is all.
Your love, madam, what of that?
I have no heart to give you. Leave me. In pity, leave me.
I am once more repulsed, rejected. We now understand each other.
Yes, we do. Leave me. But I bear you no ill will, Mr. Travanion. I am still, I hope, your friend.
Well, madam, if the reed will not bend, it will break.
What can you mean by that?
I will say no more, for now.
There is something sinister, something threatening in Mr. Travanion's last look, which makes Madeline tremble. She strives to forget that look, but in the weeks that follow, the remembrance of it haunts her day and night. She is of an ardent temperament, and her spirit is not always proof against superstitious feelings. In spite of her repugnance, yes, even her detestation of this man, she sometimes yields to the belief that her fate in life is strangely associated with his. A fortnight has elapsed. Travanion has not renewed his persecution of Madeline. The constant dread that he will do so, however, imparts to her manner an anxiety and feverish wildness amounting almost to terror. The news that Mr. Flint plans a trip to the theater thus fills her with delight. Though by no means given to gaiety, Madeline is passionately fond of the footlights. Still, it is not the lighter kinds of entertainment that she craves, but plays offering somber, deep, and passionate characters that fascinate her thoughtful soul. In her mind, she peoples the world with characters out of Shakespeare's plays. She recognizes them as heroic, even as tragic. But she overlooks the fact that some are, in fact, villains.
Good evening, ma'am.
Good evening. Do you know if Aunt Elizabeth is ready yet?
Your aunt won't accompany us this evening, ma'am.
Not accompany us? But why not? In all our years together, she's never missed a night together at the theatre.
It's unaccountable, ma'am. Mr. Flint sent word that she's been called away on an urgent matter.
What matter could be so urgent at this hour?
I can't say, ma'am.
And am I to travel unchaperoned?
Mr. Flint left instructions for me to accompany you. He sent this coach himself and promised to meet you at the theatre.
How extraordinary.
It's getting late, ma'am. I'm afraid we'd better be off if we're to meet Mr. Flint in time.
Oh, very well.
On that dark, rainy evening in November, Madeline feels apprehensive as her carriage leaves the safety of her home near Regent's Park. The carriage hurries for the Drury Lane Theater, where the celebrated Edmund Kean is about to perform one of his most infamous villains, the diabolical Richard III.
But this is not the way to the theatre. What does this mean? There must be some mistake.
Now, ma'am, pray sit still. Depend upon it, we shall soon arrive.
My, we've been travelling a long time. We should certainly have reached the theatre by now.
We must all be patient, ma'am.
I don't recognise these streets. The driver must have taken a wrong turn somewhere.
Mr. Flint gave the driver specific instructions to take this route, ma'am. He said it would be safer, given the bad weather.
8 o'clock. We're missing the performance.
I'm sure everything will be all right, ma'am, just as Mr. Flint has planned.
Everything is most assuredly not all right. Coachman, where are you taking us?
Just a little bit farther, miss.
But where are we going? We've left the theatre behind long ago.
I've got my orders from Mr. Flint, miss. We'll be there presently, and he promised to explain everything.
Explain everything? What needs to be explained? We're supposed to be going to the theatre.
Less as may be, miss. I'll leave such explanations to my betters.
can't make out anything. But we've left London far behind us. We're in the country, not a house in sight. In this rain, all I see are trees. Coachman, what house is this? Where are we?
You'll be told soon enough, miss.
Now, my love, we must get out here.
Here? Where are we? What place is this?
A friend's house. Oh, and look. Why, there's Mr. Flint now.
Good evening, my dear.
Mr. Flint, tell me the meaning of what I see.
All in due time.
I'm so surprised. What is this place? Why have I been taken here?
It is only a little business, dear young lady. It's to transact a little business that I have sent for you.
But why not tell me in advance? Why all this strange secrecy?
Your affairs require it, but all shall be explained presently. Do come in, for I fear the damp and cold air will injure your health.
How far we're going?
This way, dear Miss Capel. We shall soon reach the room. Here are our friends. Dr. McIntyre, Nurse Collins. May I present Miss Madeline Capel. Good evening, so glad you could join us.
What's that?
You must calm down, Miss Capel.
Mr. Flint!
Please calm yourself.
Calm myself? The secrecy, the false tales used to lure me here, and this extraordinary house, the cries frightful and earthly. Where have you brought me?
Someplace where these doctors can help you.
Help me? But there's nothing wrong with me. Doctor!
This is unfortunate. I had hoped that this would go smoothly. Those shrieks of your patients have disturbed her. Yes, they're very upsetting at first, until you get used to them. Nurse, get her some water.
Yes, Doctor.
There, she's coming round. Miss Capel, are you feeling better?
Where am I? What's happened?
You're not quite yourself, as you can see.
But I feel fine. It's this place, those screams.
I'm sure the doctor here can help you. I'm not so sure. She's upset, certainly, but her actions are nothing out of the ordinary. She seems quite sane, in fact, very acute on some points. Exactly, but very deranged on others. If only I had some way to ease my mind. Professionally speaking, of course. Doctor, I thought we had an understanding. You know I can't commit her unless I'm certain she's unwell, of course. This should assuage your conscience. £100? Very well, I understand. A very common case. Poor unfortunate lady. On closer examination, she doesn't seem that well at all.
Let me up. Oh, Mr. Flint, please take me home. I feel like I've been having a nightmare.
This is no nightmare, Miss Capel. We're here to help you.
Help me? But I'm not ill.
Well, perhaps not, Doctor. Don't forget a little arrangement. I mean, I think you are.
No, unhand me.
Carry her to her room.
Stop! Let me go! Oh, Mr. Flint, where have you taken me?
To a lunatic asylum, my dear.
Inside Madeline Capel's townhouse, Aunt Elizabeth paces the room. It's almost midnight, and she's terribly worried. For some reason, Mr. Flint has called her away to meet him at his office, causing her to miss her theater date with Madeline. And when she returned home, she waited. And waited, listening to the clock chime hour after hour. Right now it's almost midnight, and her niece has still not returned. Aunt Elizabeth has ordered her manservant to bring up the bobby who patrols their street. And after waiting for what seemed like forever, footsteps in the hall indicate they've come at last.
Officer Bellingham, ma'am, as you requested.
Good evening, ma'am. Your man here told me of your concerns, and I'm here to help in any way that I can.
Thank you for coming, officer.
Now, if you don't mind my asking, why don't we start with you explaining it all to me yourself, in your own words?
Of course, officer. It's really quite simple. My niece, Madeline Capel, went out to the theatre tonight at 7 o'clock and hasn't returned.
I understand, ma'am. I'm right in thinking that this behaviour is not typical of the young lady?
Absolutely not. We generally attend the theatre together, but tonight I was called away. She went alone, or rather, accompanied by her maid. They left here in a hired coach.
I see.
Something must have happened to her. She's never been away like this, and it is getting so late.
Now, please, don't worry. We'll get to the bottom of this, you can be sure.
Why, here's the servant now. Pauline, where is Miss Capel?
Miss Capel, ma'am?
Yes, my niece. Where is she?
I'm afraid I'm not at liberty to tell you,
now,
ma'am.
Don't get saucy, you. Not at liberty? You'll tell us what you know, and right quickly, too.
I've done nothing wrong, officer, and I'll tell if you insist. It's just that Miss Capel and her young gentleman friend asked me quite particularly not to say anything about it.
Young gentleman? What young gentleman?
The young gentleman is to marry her.
What? That's preposterous.
Now tell us the truth, you, and no bones about it.
Yes, please. What happened when you took Miss Capel to the theatre tonight?
Well, in point of fact, we never went to the theatre.
What?
That is to say, we took the coach to the theatre, but never went inside.
None of your palaver, you. Where did you go?
Well, as I was saying, we got to the theatre, and there I left Miss Capel with the young gentleman.
What gentleman? Who is he?
Of that I was not informed, ma'am. Well dressed he was, though. Quite fashionable and dapper, I don't mind saying. He could take me for a coach ride any day, he could.
Don't you be impertinent, you.
I'm just saying the gosh honest truth. He was a looker, he was.
Then what happened?
Then he took Miss Capel by the hand, and they walked away to his coach, what waited across the street. Fine pair of white horses, too, he had. Then they drove off.
But where to?
Not exactly privy to that information, ma'am. But if I was to guess, I'd say to Gretna Green. He said they was off to be married.
What?
I see. Well, that does put a particular colour on things, doesn't it?
It most certainly does not. My niece knows no such man. She's led a sheltered life, far too sheltered to my way of thinking. But there's no way she could have met anyone without me knowing about it.
Well, ma'am...
Moreover, if she really were in love, she'd tell me everything. I've raised her since her mother passed. We're as close as mother and daughter.
That may be, ma'am. But when a young lady gets it into her head to marry, well, all kinds of things can happen.
Something has happened, officer. I'm sure of that. But this story about marriage, I don't believe a word of it.
I understand, ma'am. Let me report to the captain everything that's happened. He's sure to find out quickly if anything has gone amiss. Was the lady forced in any way, or did she go willingly?
Oh, quite willingly, sir, from what I could see. He took her by the arm, real gentlemanly, with both of them smiling like an holiday in the park all the while, and she looked at him quite romantic-like. Anyone could see there was a couple of lovebirds.
Impossible. Officer, you've got to find her immediately.
I'll do my best, ma'am. I'll be off to the station right now and file this report. Don't worry, we'll find your niece all right. And you'd better come to the station with me. I'm certain the captain will want to ask you a few questions himself.
Me? What could he possibly want with me?
Whether you're mixed up in something funny or not, it's too soon to say. But you're the last person to see Miss Capel, and you're coming to the station to tell the captain all about it.
Yeah, I'm coming.
Oh, my poor dear Madeline. Whatever can have happened to her?
A few days pass. Madeline is prisoner in a house for the unsound of mind. It is a well-known fact that, some years ago, persons were immured in lunatic asylums who ought never to have been there. Better regulations now exist for the prevention of injustices and the defeat of fraudulent purposes. But at this time, whether Madeline is sane or otherwise matters little. The usual certificate, signed by the medical men, has been tendered to the head of the establishment. He has received a handsome fee for her confinement and is, therefore, perfectly satisfied. Oh, but the tragic inmate. Madeline suffers excruciatingly from her shocking imprisonment. Sleepless except for horrific dreams, she tosses and turns awake all night, refusing all nourishment.
Alone, so what? Alone. I'm sure Mrs. Flint and Travanion look out for my interests.
As your father instructed them to do.
My father, my mother. Alone, my father. Alone, my father. Alone.
The secrecy, the false tales used to lure me here. This extraordinary house, the cries frightful and earthly.
Who's that?
Miss Capel? Miss Capel, it's me, Dr. McIntyre. Good evening, Miss Capel. Are ye all right?
I am most assuredly not all right.
Then the madness has returned.
But I'm not ill.
My nurse says that you refuse to eat.
Doctor, take me home.
Well, you must stay here a while until you are less willful. And you must eat. Nurse, please prepare the food.
But there's nothing wrong with me.
That's as I feared. The madness had made you willful again.
No.
Nurse, get her down into that chair.
No, unhand me.
Then strap her in.
Let me go.
She fights like a wildcat, Doctor.
Together we'll get her. There, Miss Capel. We're only trying to help.
Let me go.
All in due time, my dear. All in due time. Have you got her, nurse?
Yeah, she's tied tight now.
Well, I leave you to your dinner, Miss Capel. And be sure to eat every bite.
No.
You must maintain your appetite in order to get well.
Let me go.
All still, miss, and open your mouth for the spoon. It's only some soup and a little medicine to make you feel.
Why? Oh, why has our dear heroine been imprisoned in this way? Allow us to eavesdrop on a conversation between two wicked men to learn the reason.
I hope you're satisfied. Your paltry efforts to woo her have failed and left us no alternative. Here she lies, imprisoned. But what of it?
What of it? But surely, Mr. Flint, you must realize...
Even though we have her in this lunatic asylum.
As I said, our goal is to frighten her a little, to bend her will and make her amenable to the marriage.
I understand that, but this place... This horrid place... It's almost enough to drive me mad. What effect it will have on her, there's no telling.
We must be patient. A few more nights.
I hope you are right.
A little confinement, some medicine, a little care bestowed upon her by the clever head of that establishment will be highly beneficial to our dear ward.
But no one else must know. I trust no meddling party.
Don't worry. The medical man will sign the certification we need as long as we pay him what he asks. So all will be done in a quiet, snug way.
If anyone should find out, we don't want any appeal to the Lord Chancellor, any commission of lunacy. A jury would certainly find her sane.
At least no one is searching for her here.
No, that fiction of yours about her marrying should throw them off our scent for a while at least. Gretna Green indeed.
That's all the time we'll need. Give her a few more nights inside and leave the rest to me. I'll ensure that we get her money. Don't worry about that. We'll break her spirits.
As long as we don't break down her sanity.
Believe me, I'm as sorry as you are that it's come to this. But after her refusals, this is the only method by which I shall ever succeed in gaining her consent to become my wife.
Madeline lies on the dirty straw bed in her cell, restless and unable to sleep. The screams of her fellow unfortunates terrify her, though they also fill her with pity for those poor souls whom reason has abandoned. Suddenly, a dark form appears in front of her locked cell door and whispers to her.
Hey, you in there.
Who are you? What can you want?
Consider me a friend. I've come to let you out of here.
A friend?
Madeline hurries to the door and sees outside a raggedly clothed inmate holding an enormous ring of keys.
We've got to be quick and silent as the grave.
Anything, if only to get away from here.
That's all I could do for you, Missy. The stairs down that way lead to the garden. If you make it to the wall, you'll find yourself on the main road. From there, you'll be home free, no worries.
Oh, thank you. But who are you? Why have you helped me?
Nobody, Missy. Just a friend who's helping a friend in need. Now off with you before the guard returns on his watch.
Madeline cannot believe her good fortune. She looks around quickly at her miserable cell and hurries to the door. An instant and she's outside in the hall heading toward the garden. Madeline races down the cold corridors, running in bare feet along the rough stones that pave the floor. She moves quickly, but as quietly as possible, hoping to avoid making a sound that might lead to her discovery. She reaches the garden door and hurries outside, running toward the wall. Beyond, she can see the lights of London, far away but still visible in a hazy glow. She rushes to the wall, grabbing the edges of the uneven bricks in hopes of finding a way to clamber over the wall. First she slips, but then she begins to climb. Higher and higher she goes, until finally she reaches the top of the wall. She can see the street below. Madeline falls to the ground outside the asylum walls, bracing herself as she hits the ground, but still cutting her knees and blooding the palms of her hands. She stands up and begins to run down the road. Then it happens.
That's her! Grab her!
Two men leap from the bushes as though they've been expecting her. They grab hold of the young woman and hold her fast.
Hold her tight now. Let's not let her go.
Oh, chance of that, mate. The old man said he'd pay us a guinea each if we nabbed her. And nab her we will.
Stop! Let me go!
Madeline struggles fiercely, but in her weakened state, she's no match for two rugged men. They grab her tight and force her back into the asylum.
Better to go easy, mate. There's no use in fighting it. What's done, it's done.
Suddenly, from out of the shadows, the dark shapes of two men appear by the side door. Mr. Flint and the doctor.
You must be an especially cruel man, Mr. Flint, to allow her to escape, to taste freedom and reach the road, only to drag her back inside again. Not cruel, Doctor, but someone like you who understands the workings of a human mind. We thrive on hope, especially in our direst moments. Hope is all we have, and I have let Miss Capel have hope. Yes, but you've dashed her hope, letting her become free, only to be captured once more. That's correct. But you see, Doctor, our goal here is to weaken our guest, force her to abandon all hope, to wring it out of her the way you wring dirty water from a cleaning rag. How awful. And once hope is gone, then, sir, she will do anything we require of her.
Time passes slowly in the asylum, so dark that one can barely tell day from night. Days? Weeks? Who can say? Certainly Madeline cannot. Her bursts of agony, her shivering fits of terror have led to that stupor which deep suffering will produce. Drugged, half starved, is her very sanity fluttering away? Even Madeline herself does not know.
Who's there?
A visitor, miss.
A visitor? Who can it be? Oh, please, let them in.
You may go inside, sir.
Good evening, Miss Capel.
Oh, Mr. Travanion, save me. You can do it. You could do it. Oh, take me away from this place.
But, my dear, you look a fright. The shadow on your strained brow, the wild fever in your eye.
I'm not well. I cannot sleep. I have nightmares. The food, they drug me.
Oh, what mental agitation, what inward suffering must you be undergoing?
Please let me go home. You know I am quite well, perfectly in my senses. I am a victim of a wicked, cruel conspiracy.
Mr. Flint and I only want the best for you. It pains me to see you like this.
That is your conscience biting you, Mr. Travanion.
Alas, madam, I am a most unhappy man.
Your heart pains you for the share you have had in this conspiracy. Mr. Flint, too, whom I thought so honest, so good, has assisted in helping this miseries upon me.
Well, madam, Flint seems fully persuaded of the aberration of your intellect. I had at first opposed his notion, but my very love for you caused me to give way.
How? A very extraordinary love, then, yours must be.
I have said that I wished you were penniless, an obscure peasant maid. More, such is my adoring, desperate passion that were you even proclaimed insane, were your property taken from you to enjoyed by the next heir, still would I love, worship, fall at your feet. I would wed you even in madness. Can love demand more than this? Oh, forgive me then for lending my sanction to Flint's cruel act.
Mr. Travanion, is it in your power to free me from this place?
Most certainly it is.
How long, if Mr. Flint, yourself, and others conceive it proper, may I be immured here?
For months, probably years.
Oh, I can't stand it.
Hear me, Miss Capel. Promise, swear that you will be my bride. Take that oath, and in a moment you will leave these walls. You'll sleep in your bed at home this very night.
I will not give myself into your hands. No, leave me, sir. I reject your suit. I can but suffer. I can but die.
As you wish. I will see you again.
But again and again, Mr. Travanion comes, persevering in his addresses to Madeline and endeavoring each time by some new falsehood to crush her strength and bear down her resolve. Long she stood, long she struggles in the meshes of the net thrown around her. But silence, solitude, threats, fears, misery prevailed at last. A final time, the villainous Mr. Travanion appears.
Well, what do you say? Will you marry me? Will you be my bride?
No, no. Please don't make me. Better to let me die.
These tears, these precious tears, proclaim that you yield.
I will. I will.
But I must have your solemn, your inviolable oath. You must swear.
I will.
You must swear by heaven.
By heaven. Oh no. How can I swear to this?
You must. It's the only way. You must swear.
All right, all right. Then I swear by heaven.
Oh, my dearest. You've made me the happiest of men.
Please, let me go. Don't touch me. Just take me home immediately.
Mr. Travanion rises early. It is his wedding morning. His valet bestows extreme attention upon the person of the broken-down man of pleasure. Every point is attended to, yet gay apparel cannot bring back the unclouded brow or freshness of youth.
Your coat, sir?
Thank you, Williams.
In spite of his fashionably cut coat and snow-white neckerchief, his limbs are emaciated, his cheek hollow. Yet a feverish joy glistens in his usually dull and watery eyes. His hopes are realized, his schemes crowned with success at last. Upon her 21st birthday, Madeline inherits her estates, and as her husband, Mr. Travanion will enjoy a life interest in a great portion of the property. He should no longer lounge in the clubs with an empty purse. Gold, horses, choice wines, gambling, all will again be his. On this, the day of her nuptial martyrdom, Madeline's heart starts to break and tears trickle down her face. Yes, she might defy the serpent-like villains, the avaricious Flint and Travanion. But she has sworn an oath, a vow they have wrung from her heart in a moment of terror and agony, an oath to heaven. She feels herself bound by its solemn obligation. A sense of honor urges Madeline to keep this oath.
Dearly beloved, we gather here to join in holy matrimony this couple, Madeline Capel and Wilberforce Travanion. Mr. Travanion, do you take this woman to be your lawfully wedded wife, to have and to hold until death do you part?
What's happening to me? I feel so strange, so...
Suddenly, Travanion appears feverish and excitable. His frame, enfeebled by nerves, shatters as tremors shake his limbs. He tries to move, but cannot. He has been struck with paralysis. His sense forsakes him. His emaciated form has lost all power and sensation.
My eyes. I can't see. My heart, it's pounding. I can't breathe.
Travanion can no longer control his body and mind. His nuptial mourning is to him a mourning of fate, of retribution, for he receives the penalty due to his broken oath and his crimes. The local doctor rushes to his side.
Is he still alive?
Yes, madam, but for how long I cannot say.
Oh, heavens!
Doctor, what is it? Will he recover? There's nothing that the doctor can do for him now. I'm ruined! Ruined!
In spite of the lies that have ruled his life, Mr. Flint at last has spoken the truth. He is ruined. After his villainies are discovered, Mr. Flint, a man of cunning and craft, suffers an exposure sufficient to ruin his business as a lawyer, and to bring upon him the odium and contempt of all honest men.
Extra, extra, read all about it. Mad-ass marriage plot. Verdict comes today.
Inside a London courthouse, we learn Mr. Flint's fate.
Have you reached a verdict?
We have, Your Honor.
How have you decided?
Guilty on all counts. No, it can't be.
Let the record show that in the matter of the court versus Bartholomew Flint, the jury has found Mr. Flint guilty of fraud, kidnapping, and false imprisonment. The court sentences him to transportation for life.
Oh no, please, have mercy, Your Honor.
Those who show no mercy have no call to ask for any. Take him down.
No, please, no transportation.
Mr. Flint serves just a few years of his well-deserved sentence. He dies a few years later. For Madeline, a happier fate awaits. Having kept her dreadful oath and passed through that ordeal of trial and suffering which, in a greater or less degree, fall to the lot of us all, she receives her reward. Madeline returns to live with her Aunt Elizabeth, who stays beside her and makes her days happy ones. In time, Madeline marries a man who thoroughly understands her character, who has wooed her for herself and not for her possessions. And the result is a life of deep, pure, unmingled happiness.
And you have been listening to The Two Sacred Oaths with Jonathan Brand as Mr. Flint, Kate Feeney as Aunt Elizabeth, Clive Marlowe as Mr. Travanion, and Rose Trustman as Madeline. All other characters were played by members of the cast. The Two Sacred Oaths was adapted by Arnold Anthony Schmidt and directed and mixed by Julia Warren.
If you liked our show, please visit our website at www.talesfromthepennybloods.org and follow us on Instagram, Mastodon, and Twitter. You can listen to our other episodes on Spotify and YouTube. And please, spread the word among your colleagues, friends, and family.